can see what we have here is a VY Series 2 VZ Crewman Cross 8. Pretty much the same as your standard Crewmans, but this has got the cross system in there. What I'm doing is I've got a issue with my fuel pump or fuel sender, so I need to change the whole fuel pump out. What we need to do to get to the fuel pump, as you can see in the back here, there's no area here where you can actually get to the fuel pump, which is sitting right there where that curved bit is. I guess you can always cut that out, put an inspection box, but the way that the service team says to do it is basically undo these 4 bolts in here. There's one there, one in the front corner there, one there, which was under this little rubber grommet bit, and there's another one in that corner. Now there's another 2 on each side, and as you can see, I'll come around this side because I've got the light on, but you need to take your wheel out. You need to take the wheel out, you need to take the actual the inner plastic cover off there. I forgot what that's called. Anyway, as you can see, there's your other 2 bolts. So there's one bolt here, one bolt there. You've got to take them off, and the same on the other side. Theoretically, this should be able to come out. Now, before you actually try and move that, what you need to do is disconnect this wiring harness here. Disconnect the fuel filler pipe. As you can see, it's accessible once you take off the inner plastic hub behind the wheel there. And just sitting up in there, I don't know if you can see it, but you can't actually see it anyway, but just in that area there, you can see where the fuel tank is, so it's impossible to try and get to the fuel pump / sender from any other way apart from pulling this off. Anyway, now I'm going to undo this bolt here and see how we go. Hopefully it should be easy enough just to slide back and or even just lift up a little bit so that I can get to the top of the fuel tank there. Alrighty, see you back when I get to the other side. Okay, I've undone those bolts and jiggled around a couple of bits and pieces and managed to move the tub back a little bit. As you can see in there's the fuel pump assembly that we're after. So I've only had to move it back a few inches. So hopefully I should be able to get it back into place, but luckily we've got these locator tabs just here, which slot into there on both sides, as you can see. And underneath the car there's also these thingies, I don't know if you can see them in there in the darkness, but it's just like a little lip that the tub sits on, so hopefully everything should fit back into place fairly easily. And it's not as bad as a job. It's not as hard a job as if you've got a couple of hours spare, then it's not too bad. The only thing that kind of was difficult for me was because I've got a canopy on top of this tub, was these wires here gave me a bit of trouble. I didn't realise that's what was holding the tub down. I was trying to lift it up, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. So anyway, what I've done is I've just snipped those wires, and I'll where is it? It's coming down here somewhere. But I'll snip that wire and I'll rewire it when I'm done. There we go. You can see that one there. I'll just rewire that once I'm finished, so give it a bit of extra slack. But anyway, what I've got to do now is take this fuel pump off. So what I've done is I've cleaned around the area as best I can, so that when I do pull it out, it doesn't actually have too much shit fall into the tank there. And I've just got a blower that I've blown around the area, which I'll still finish off. I've still got to do a little bit more cleaning, but anyway, hopefully next time I record you'll see the new fuel pump going in. Catch us later. Okay, got the new fuel pump in. You can see it's all in there, all put back together. I'm just going to test it now before I put this tub back in. Couple of important points. Make sure you actually clean around the fuel tank opening, or where the fuel pump goes, as much as you can. And also when you're trying to bang the actual ring back on, this actual ring here, the ring that holds the fuel pump in place, make sure you use some kind of cloth or something at least on the end of your screwdriver or whatever you're you're smashing it. Probably better to actually use brass, to be honest. Use a brass bit to smash that back on, but just take it easy, don't rush it or anything like that. And as I didn't have any brass, so I just used a couple of rags on the end of the actual screwdriver just to make sure that if I did slip, it wouldn't create any kind of spark. Now the other thing is I completely forgot when I was taking the fuel line off. It was really hard to take off, and I was thinking, what have I done wrong here? And then I thought, well, I haven't actually taken the pressure out of the tank. So what you have to do is take the fuel relay out of the engine, which on these Crewman is on the right hand side of the fuse relay. I think it's a fuse box on the right hand side there in the engine bay, so driver's side. So you take that out, then you crank the motor over and let the thing run for a little bit. It'll run for like 2 seconds because there's no fuel pumping through, and then crank it over another couple of times just to make sure that there isn't any fuel. Anyway, once I did that, I came back and checked the actual fuel line and found that it was pretty much just fell off, so it was really easy to get off then. So just make sure you do that. So let's go have a look back here at the fuel relay. As you can see, what I've got in my hand here, this is the fuel relay fuse. So if we look at this little box here, fuel pump relay, so that one there is that one there. So we'll throw that back in and that cover back on. The right way would be good. So as you can see, I've actually got the battery disconnected at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and reconnect that and start the car up, and hopefully there's no fuel leaks anywhere and it should all be good to put back together. Okay, let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Cross fingers. And look at my fuel gauge go up. Look at that. That's fucking brilliant. That's excellent. That solved the problem. Let's go back here and make sure there's no fuel leaking. No, look at that. Beautiful. No fuel leaks. No anything. So it was the actual fuel pump assembly that was the problem, because I was getting a low fuel. If I come back a bit, if you can, once it decides to focus, can we see from back here maybe? There we go. See that? It's actually showing me what the fuel gauge is reading as correctly now, and before it wasn't. So the problem was the fuel gauge just stopped working one day. Everything else was working, like how much fuel it was used, like the fuel used and everything else, but just the the fuel gauge that was showing is fully empty. So anyway, that's worked, that's fixed it. Let's turn that off again and make sure we got pressure in our fuel line. Let's just have a listen. Yep, I could hear all that coming on. Starts up beautifully. No fuel going anywhere. That's fantastic. Job done. Now I've got to just, actually it's not really job done, I've got to put this back together now, which I'm not too sure is going to be too easy, but hey, I will persist. Folks, I've got the tub back in place, ready to bolt up. Obviously it's probably a good idea to make sure that you go along and check the clearances, make sure it's all the same all the way around. Luckily, what I did before I actually started is I marked a couple of places on the tub and actually on the chassis of the car. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I'm not too sure if there's enough light for you to see this. Yeah, there we go. So you can see here on this side, I've put 2 marks on the chassis, going that way, pointing up to where that should be, and the same on this side, so that, for me, that's lining up, and it probably needs to go forward a bit, but I also put a mark up under there. It's hard to see it, but I did, and that tells me sideways and also forwards. So look in the back here, you see where the tub actually sits. Let me just bring this light over here a bit. That's bright. So, where is it? Oh yeah, it's bright. See if we can dull that down a bit because it's too bright. I'm not sure if you're seeing that or not. Just in there. right here is where the actual tub sits on the chassis at the back. So those bolts there line up. The ones on the other side should line up as well. Let's go. Sorry about the camera work here. Also, these bolts here should line up. Let's have a squeeze. So, yep, that lines up there. There's our hole there. There's our hole there. There's our hole there. And the other one there. The body's looking very straight to me there, so it's about the same thickness for my finger to go through all the way that side. Let's see if my finger test. This side here could probably be pushed in a bit, so I'll go to the back of the tub and just give it a bit of a push, maybe just a there and there. So just checking the alignment there. It's the same here. Yep. Oh, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, eh? I've got to chuck this side in a bit. That's better. Looks pretty good. That's good. Okay, now as long as these bolts hit, yep, beautiful, look at that. There's my marks that I previously made, they line up as well. Everything there. Now the only other thing I've got to double check, what the fuck is that? Okay, that's cool. I've got to screw that back on, which I took off because that was connected to the chassis, wouldn't allow any movement, and that's all. And I've got to put my, yep, number plate back on. Alright, well, that's about it, people. If you've got any other questions, feel free to give me a, drop me a message and I'll reply back. Okay, what I've done here as well, rather than taking this whole thing off, because this was a bitch to try and actually take that off, so what I did is I just put a cloth in that end, left the cap on there. So now what I'll do is when I'll go to put this back in, that should just slide back in through the rubber. Also, this is a reserve that clicks back in there. As you can see, I'll put a cloth on each one because I didn't want to have any dirt falling into it. So once we get this this bolted back up, it should be good. Alright, well, thanks for watching. As I said, any questions, drop us a line. There she is, running beautifully. Had a look around, there's no leaks anywhere or anything like that. So here's the old assembly. Fuel pump slash sender assembly. I think what was stuffed was the actual, if we have a look right there, that little mechanism there wasn't working properly. The float wasn't showing the correct reading, so it's either the connecting wires or something in there, but it's a fault that's very annoying because you have to take off the whole tub. So anyway, that's it. Pretty much job's done. All I've got to do tomorrow is come along and put my tub liner back in, which is there, and then followed by my canopy, which is there. So what's the time now? The time is, I think it took me about 3 hours all up, but I was working, 2.5 hours, but working very slowly and working on my own. So Holden quoted 4 hours for the job. I did it quicker than they did, so, and I was on my own. Anyway, so it looks all good, looks straight. As I said, there's no leaks or anything like that. Let's just double check again. No obvious leaks anywhere there. Nothing there. That's great. That's good. So I'll let her run for a little bit more and just make sure that there are 100% no leaks. Make sure I've left no tools in here. It's all on back correctly. All running good. Looks like I have to fill up my coolant. I'll do that tomorrow. There you have it. The VY Series II Crewman, same as the VZ Crewman. Cross 8 actually, so really nice car to drive. Bit hard to pull burnouts though. But anyway, there you go. Any questions? Drop me a line.